Hey everyone, thanks for watching the Dash cast. I'm your co-host, Brandon Colongo. We've got Curtis Dash here. And wow, do we have a lot to talk about. First of all, I'd like to express my gratitude that Curtis is alive. He survived the illness. And so I guess you could say that I too have survived the exposure. So we're all doing well over here. And so for that, we can all be grateful. But be sure to like this video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, so you can get more hot takes from us. But gosh, this has to be said, and Curtis is gonna be very happy about it. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is the MVP, right? I mean,
Yeah, there's no other contest, honest, with the way Patrick Mahomes kind of played down the stretch in particular, I think really hurt that, and the way Kansas City played as a whole entirely kind of down the stretch there as Rodgers played better and better the season progressed. His numbers amazing. I mean, Rodgers tops his previous career high in passing percentage and rating, or not rating, but career high for sure. So it's just crazy in terms of passing yards. What Green Bay has put together, especially what Aaron Rodgers has been able to put together in his campaign. 70% passing, 70.7, over 4K yards, 48 and 5 TD to INT. Man, only stacked 20 times. The O line's held up really well. Really helped Rodgers make a lot of receivers look good. And obviously, there's more Green Bay stuff here we can get into, but just with the Rodgers stuff right now.
someone as a big Aaron Rodgers fan, I mean, how does it make you feel to know that? I mean, and maybe you wouldn't consider last year to be like an off year or a down year, or decline year, or anything like that. But for him to respond this season in the way that he has, and LaFleur and all the new changes that the Packers made, I mean, after the draft, I can't say that you would have predicted how this season went.
The season as a whole, no, I don't know if I really thought we would realistically go 13-3 again. I kind of looked at us like 11-5 or 12-4, which I guess isn't far off from 13-3. But for Aaron Rodgers' campaign itself, I expected him to come back with a vengeance. We all knew he's going to be pissed. He said all the right things, like a veteran quarterback does, like a good leader does. But he did all the right things too. He's performing well, and I mean he's 37. So it's great having him put together this kind of campaign. What bothers me is what are we going to do with Jordan Love if Aaron Rodgers is putting together a 48-5 campaign at the age of 37?
Oh, that's a moot point. Forget about that. That's the least of your problems. How do you feel about having them bye?
Okay, so I think we talked about this obviously off air a lot, and I am not a huge fan of the bye just because of the rust. I think rust is real. Momentum is real. I think if you're in the camp that momentum and rust is not real, you are wrong. I know they are two separate things,
But
but
you don't think they are going to have enough momentum from that last win?
I think I don't know. Being off for a week, man, it can get lax. Players can get lax. We did just lose Bakhtiari for the
I
CEO
think
with
it's
an
one
ACL.
thing if you barely squeak out a win and then you have and then you go and you win the next
Sure.
game strong. I think when you win a game so commandingly, it's that's where you want to be.
Well, I mean,
You
how
know,
are
the
you
last
kind of
thing you
feeling
want, the
about that
last thing you
though?
want is to come off a loss and then have a bye.
Because
Because you were resting your guys.
you kind of see this from the outside looking in a way. I mean, I know you like Rodgers, but obviously you're not nearly the homer I am when it comes to it. How do you feel about Rodgers' campaign, especially looking at it the way you can, probably unbiasedly?
Yeah, to be frank, with Rodgers, for as much as everyone liked to be down on Brady and say that, he's having decline, I actually saw, from my perspective, lots of decline in Rodgers. And so I did not see this season happening in any way, shape, or form. However, that's what great players do. They come through, and obviously you're not surprised by that. I was pretty surprised with how he played, but without a doubt, he's shown that he deserves to be the MVP this year. And so he's taken a team that I would say is way overperformed. And I really like the fact I like the way that they went into the playoffs as opposed to like a team like the Steelers and how they kind of limped their way into the playoffs.
Or the Chiefs, even.
Yeah, the Chiefs too.
Kind of how they stumbled in. That's a very good point. I mean, momentum, obviously, like I said, is something that's important. It does help when your quarterback throws for 48 touchdowns, however. It kind of
So
helps
as
keep
much
that
as
momentum.
we've talked about all the greatness, and trust me, Aaron Rodgers is very, very, very great. The all-time greatest
Here we go.
is once again being disrespected as poor Tom Brady, who throws over 40 touchdowns at age 43, is snubbed on the Pro Bowl appearance. I mean, this is an absolute disgrace, and Pro Bowl voters should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, I gotta agree. Snubbing a 43-year-old Brady who throws for 40 touchdowns and 12 picks. I mean, that's kind of
And look
shady,
at what he
guys.
did to the MVP. Sorry to bring this up again.
All right, he did that to my defense, and my quarterback did not
Yes.
play well that game either. So,
Because everyone wants to give poor Tom Brady a hard time about how he played against good teams. And true, they had a very interesting set of good teams that they played against that all had exceptional pass rushes. So the one good team that they played that didn't have the best pass rush, notice what Brady did. However, there is something to be said about they really dominated all the bad teams, and they lost to a lot of teams that you would have liked to have seen them win more of.
yeah,
So
their
I'm not
record is.
feeling the best about them, but for a first year and coming in and turning up the most losingest franchise in sports history into a playoff team, I mean, that is in and of itself amazing. And I think this year was absolute unequivocal proof that Brady was at least 70, probably 80% of the success in New England. And the Patriot way is because of Tom Brady. And Bill Belichick went for the ride of his life. And now Arians has a great opportunity to go for the ride of his life.
Yeah, as long as he can keep his mouth shut.
Well, I've actually liked the way Arians has been responding lately. As Chase Young
Really?
actually was after the game saying, "I want Brady," which
Yeah,
that's cute and
I
all,
did
being
hear
a
that.
rookie who's a captain, but Arians had the perfect response when he said, "Careful what you wish for."
I mean, yeah, they're in for a very rough weekend. I think Washington is. Obviously, that is
I
another.
I will tread lightly. I think Washington matches up very well against the Bucs.
I
I'm
just
just going to throw that out there. But
I'm feeling the Bucks, man. And isn't it kind of funny that they're 11-5? I feel like they're exactly where we thought they would be at the end of the season. When we're talking about at the beginning of the season
well, they're exactly where you thought they were going to be. You had the Saints
at 12 and
winning
4,
that.
and I'm pretty
Yep,
sure I had them
and
at 11
they're
and
not where
5.
I thought they were going to be. I thought they were going to be a little better off without Antonio Brown.
And that's another thing to bring up. We got to talk about those weapons for a minute. I kind of want to get on these weapons for just a little bit. Before I guess I start my argument, I should shoot myself in the foot here. Green Bay is always talked about with Rodgers how he doesn't have a lot of talent. Now, Davante Adams is a top 5 receiver, if not top 1,
Thank you.
depending on who you're asking. You got to think, okay, so obviously very good receiver. Our running back in Aaron Jones is a top 5 running back as well. So we do have talent. The defense has stepped up this year as well. However, your receiving core compared to our receiving core is twice as good. Rodgers is throwing for 55 touchdowns at least. That's the only
I don't know
thing
if
I
you
want
would
to
go
talk about
that far.
He threw for 48 and didn't have Davante Adams for 2 games. 2.5.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean necessarily that you would have the same type of season in that offense. Like,
Yeah, fair.
I don't buy that. You could just flat across say that. However, Tom Brady, there was a lot more to do than just go in there and throw to these great receivers. I mean, he had to change a mindset. I mean, and it was funny too because you look at some of these games where they would start off slow and then end up coming back at the end. I almost felt like Brady was trying his best to do Bruce Arians' offense, and then about halfway through he'd be like, "Okay, guys, don't worry, I got this." And then he'd bring them back. Sure enough, they go on these great late game runs. And I think that now towards the end of the season, they're finally marrying well together. Everything's kind of coming into place at the right time. But it is really difficult to no off season, no OTAs, no preseason games.
Yeah, that's very true.
You drop Tom Brady against. And I get that all the teams have to play with this, but a lot of the teams had returning players.
It's like Rodgers
Drew
isn't
Brees
making
didn't have to
20
learn
years.
a new system.
Yeah.
He didn't have to learn how to throw to Michael Thomas.
That's a very good point. I think a lot of people will forget about that, especially being in the playoffs now. A lot of people are going to forget about that. And that's not right.
It's just so funny how Brady is the only guy that's not allowed to have weapons. the same people that are going to say, oh, yeah, well, Tom Brady's got the stacked receivers are the same people that are going to say Mahomes is all that and totally glance over the fact that he's got a track team and will also probably applaud LeBron for changing teams and always making sure he has the best player. You're just like, come on, guys. This Brady hate is out of control. Brady's allowed to have weapons, too.
He is. He is. It just makes him that much more dangerous for the rest of the conference, man. The NFC should be very, very afraid of the Buccaneers, especially coming into the playoffs as they are. I wish they had stumbled in. We can't always get what we want, though. I do want to talk about Green Bay in the playoffs just for a minute. I want to get your perspective on this. Obviously, we have the 1 seed and we have the bye. Rodgers having the season he did. Are you kind of worried for Russ on the outside looking in? If you're me.
From years past experience, I would just have it in the back of my mind, but I wouldn't be worried about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're aware of something, but don't let it affect you.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think the Green Bay is in the perfect division because the only team I think that really gives them a hard time matchup-wise is Tampa Bay, and I really like Green Bay matchup-wise against everybody else.
And I think we might not see you until the NFC Championship if the Bears take care of business instead of the
Although
Saints.
I think that could be ugly. I think that one might be ugly. But we would see because I think it could also be ugly if Tampa Bay has to play the Saints.
If Tampa Bay has to play the Saints, that's going to be a very, very interesting game. That'll be a crazy
I'm going to
game.
be nervous.
I'm nervous thinking about it. But that is something for our playoff special. That's something for our playoff special, and we'll kind of talk about that a little bit more. But we'll go ahead and wrap this up here. We kind of hit our minute mark, and we want to get you guys as much content out as humanly possible. And I want to go ahead and again say thank you guys for bearing with us. I know it's been a little bit of time. My health was a little bit detrimental, not fun. I was in the ER off and on, and it was rough for a little bit. Obviously, things are better. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please comment, tell us what you guys like, tell us what you don't like. If you don't like Brandon's Brady talk, please let us know.
Oh, you love it.
And we'll go ahead and